There is a whole world beyond what you do, and I think this is a really good mental exercise, I think, for anybody. Sometimes the narrative around acting is that, oh, you get all that rejection, or oh, it's so hard. And I've just never quite subscribed to that because maybe because I lived what feels like an entire life before it, is that the opportunity is that I was sitting in a classroom lesson planning, looking at the clock, dreaming of what it might be to just have an audition. So when I have a real audition for a real project, I don't see it as, oh, what if I don't get it? I just lead with gratitude. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm actually here. This is crazy. I was lesson planning at this time, and now I'm sitting in a waiting room, potentially going in for a casting director or whatever it might be.
Welcome back to yet another episode of Melting Pot, where we dive into stories of reinvention, resilience, and the creative journey that make life meaningful. Today, my guest is Adam LaSalle. Adam is someone who embodies all of that, and I believe even more. He's an actor, he's a musician, he's a voice artist, and he's also the founder of the Adam LaSalle Studio, known for his leap from high school music teacher to starring roles in an NBC Chicago Fire show, singing off Broadway, and voicing national campaigns for brands like McDonald's. Thank you so much for joining me today, Adam.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me today.
Great. Adam, so let's start with what exactly was the turning point that made you decide to leave a safe path of teaching music to actually pursuing music and then acting as well?
Yeah. So the way that I like to summarize my story is that when I was young, I was like a creativity machine. And I imagine a lot of listeners would relate to this when you're a kid. You're like, I was drawing, I was doodling in class, I was trying to learn every instrument I possibly could. I was singing in choir, I was in school band, whatever it might be. And I came from a world that didn't really know. And I think it's just an exposure thing. We just didn't know that people pursued the arts in any way. And so even though I loved it, the mentors and teachers and family I had in my life, you just were under the impression that you have to take all of that creative love and power and you have to put it in a little box because you have to enter adulthood. And that means suppressing all those things and seeking stability and making sure that you can pay your bills and have benefits and things like that.
So it's
And
more
so
like taken as a hobby rather than something that you can pursue professionally.
yes, which I always found odd at the same time because I think that we really treasure and honor people who are great artists and pursue their craft and don't give up. And yet, as a public school teacher, I myself was telling kids, take the safe route, always have a backup plan. And so I went right into teaching to with the hope of affecting positive change in the world, but also I can't deny there was a part of it that was just suppressing the want to do anything creative. And so my body couldn't quite release that because I had to. I taught English for a year, I taught math for a year, and I hated it. And so I moved into teaching high school music, and that was so much more of where I wanted to be. And I did that full time for about 7 or so years and moved up the public school ladder. But I found myself talking to kids and saying, follow your dreams and don't let fear stop you. And yet here I was not living any of that. And I think the heart of my story is that I asked for help. I found myself into therapy. And even though it was a whirlwind to understand that I was actually repressing the want to pursue something creative, I realized that as simple as it is, I think I just wasn't aligning my values with my actions. Is that I was preaching, pursuing things that mean something to you. The world needs more people pursuing things that light them up. And yet I was choosing fear over love. I was just seeking security over kind of excitement. And after a lot of self work over essentially the course of a decade, I took a major leap and reorganized my entire life to say, what if? What if it all works out? Instead of letting the fear part of my brain say, the odds of this are so slim. How many people want to dream of being an actor or a musician? How could you ever do that? And what I learned when I started stepping into that world is that I went part-time originally. So I went from a full-time teacher to a part-time teacher and just got my toes wet, just started auditioning, just got headshots, just took acting classes. And I just kept asking for help. And I said, how do I get better at this? who can I talk to about this? Are there any mentors that I can study under? And there was such a kind, warm, loving community of people who were extraordinary artists and teachers and mentors that I can't deny it was a lot of luck. It was like a lot of right place, right time stuff that if I hadn't put myself out there, I might not have met these extraordinary people. And so I was so fortunate that enough, and I understood this, especially as a former teacher, is that I always thought I was trying to essentially teach character skills as much as I was teaching music. And I think I would imagine any teacher, any parent, anyone understands that, yes, you're teaching one thing, but you're also teaching how to be a good human. And so not only follow your dreams, but remember to show up on time and do your homework and be prepared for class. And I just thought, I think teachers can make really good students because we know what a really good student is. And so I just
Yeah.
thought, how can I be the best student of the pursuit of the arts? And it was reading every book I could possibly get, and it was asking for help constantly, and it was learning from the best of the best. And
And
that's what kind of woke
probably,
that up for me.
yeah, and probably some of the best may have also maybe not done teaching and then moved on to acting, but may have also had certain fears of potentially not stepping into the unknown, not knowing, because it's a huge competitive industry, whether it's music or it's acting or whatever it may be. So to actually be able to step into it and just take the shot at it, I'm sure a lot of your mentors may also have gone through that. But I feel like it's interesting because you have, I can see your cat.
Oh yeah, this is Ronnie. He tends to find his way into every interview that I
Every
do.
interview. No, he's more than welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
He's not a distraction at all. So, are these moments from your teaching career, have they, can you quantify or can you define any of the moments that you have been able to draw into your work as an actor or as a musician, and now you're also with your Adam LaSalle studio, you've also become a coach. So, how can you draw any parallels with that?
Absolutely. When I think about all the worlds I've stepped into and the worlds I hope to continue to step into is that I think it really comes down to breaking the cycle of autopilot. And I think that it comes down to what makes you feel alive. Like when I was teaching, I was also fortunate to be a kind of a teacher coach. And so part of my job was making sure that teachers were as effective as they could be, delivering the best lesson plan that they could be, that they could deliver, regardless of the content. And so much of that I found translated well into the world of professional acting and musicianship, which essentially is read the room, be in your body, be present. If you're losing the room, don't be afraid to take a risk and change it up. And I found that when I was on stage playing music or something, when the crowd is with you and when they're bored or when they're spacing out, I found that same sense of kind of what I would consider active listening in a one-on-one coaching session, being able to read the room, actively listen, fully show up in your entire body. And a lot of it too is what I like to think about is does it pass the kind of first day of school test? Like I had so much practice over the course of a decade or so, making sure that when people came into my classroom, they knew who I was. They knew what my expectations were. They knew where to put their homework. They knew what class was coming after this. And what I found is that there's kindness and clarity. So, regardless of what field I was in, if I was setting the expectation, if I was making sure that essentially whatever first day of school, if it was an interview, if it was an audition, if it was a rehearsal, if it was playing a score, whatever it might be, if I could communicate and read the room and understand that my expectations were X and that it was agreed upon between everyone I was either performing with or performing for. I found that was universal, and I think that everyone appreciated kind of clarity. And so that's one of the kind of the big pillars of what I do is like I would rather over communicate to make sure everyone's on the same page because then I think that invites everyone to play along, be it that every student feels heard and seen in a classroom, or every audience member is connecting with the play or the show that they're in, and especially any client that I work with, is just valuing the individuality of those people and making sure every single person sees themselves in that journey. And that again goes to like clarity is kindness. I can't say it any better than that. And that to me, I think is learn how to read the room, be in your body, and make sure that you're clear.
And so that's something that's come to you with a number of years of teaching experience, because I guess in a classroom, the way the students react to you in that format, and how you need to keep reinventing yourself to make sure that the students are engaged with whatever it may, whether it's math or whatever it may be. I think music is different because you're creating versus if you have to study, if you're teaching math, or if you're teaching, what was the other subject that you said? English.
I taught, yeah, English,
English,
math, and
yeah.
music.
Yeah. So I think music is creative. So those who are interested in creating will obviously be there and want to learn. But if it's a subject that's boring, then for you as a teacher to be able to engage with the student is a very important factor. And that's probably what you translated to when you transitioned into becoming a full-time actor and a musician. So, how do you define a multi-hyphenated life, and how has it shaped your approach to career and creativity?
Yeah. Oh, it's a great question. I consider a multi-hyphenate like an outlaw. Like I feel like you have to break the rules. And that I think was part of my journey was be it conditioning from the bubble that I grew up in, my schooling, my household, whatever it might have been, is that I was just really under the impression that there was just one path. And I think that was when, even when I was teaching, that was the thing that I was preaching, but I didn't quite align with, was the idea that you commit to one thing, you do one thing, you continue to do one thing, and then you die. Like it's just this is the path that you're on and you must follow. And I think you have to be, I think there's two parts to this actually. I think the first part is that for anyone that I would be working with, is encouraging the understanding that you have the ability to change, that you can change your mind, that you have the permission to change your mind, that regardless of what your degree is in, if you went to school, regardless of kind of what your life is at any point, you are the person who can make change. And I really think that's where it starts because I think most of my journey was believing that change and reinvention and dreams were for something that was something for somebody else. And I never quite was able to internalize that that was my journey. And so a lot of my self work was first believing that I was capable of change. And then I think after that, once you understand that you are capable of change, you can change careers, you can lose 20 pounds, you can whatever it is. Then it's the idea that the rules are going to be different for you than other people.
Yeah.
And that is in no way to say that people, if you always wanted to be a teacher when you were young, you're a teacher now and you're happy being a teacher. That's all that I want for everybody. But if you're a late bloomer like me or anyone else that said, I did this thing, I don't know if it's fitting, I need to change it, you have to understand that those rules then that you grew up in or understand, you have to break those rules. You have to be an outlaw in your professional life and go, nope, that's not it anymore. I'm doing this thing. And so I think a multi-hyphenate life, I think, is a dynamic life. I think it's one that is deeply linked to intuition, a gut sense about what you want to do and how you want to do it. And I think that essentially it's just iterating on that again and again, being okay to change your mind again, to change your career again, to change your relationship again. Like it's okay. And if anything, I think it's really great because it shows that you're alive.
Yeah.
You're disrupting that autopilot and you're saying, it's my life. I only live once. I don't want to live with any regret in my life. So I'm going to trust my gut and take a new path. So I think that's a multi-hyphenate life to me.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I completely align with that kind of a life because, and I'm listening to you and thinking of my personal journey, and it's similar in a sense of being a part of a corporate experience. Of course, I was in the travel industry and I loved doing what I did, and I started young at a very young age. And I thought for me, it's perfect because I'm a traveler. And if I'm able to, at such a young age, get free tickets to travel all over the world, why not? But
Yeah.
then, of course, I grew in my, as being a part of the travel industry, I started to get into better positions and all of that. I got to the peak of my career and I said, hold on, I can now buy my own tickets.
Mm.
Why am I hanging on to this? And I need to reinvent myself. And that's exactly what I did. And I've done that multiple times. Like, okay, I'm a creative person at heart, and that's what I'm going to pursue. And I have, like you were saying as well, absolutely no regrets. So I completely, you need to be a certain kind of person to do that. And you have to keep encouraging yourself. And the one thing that I believe, I'm not sure if you feel the same, is that it's okay to try something new and it's okay to fail. But you need to know how to pick yourself up again and try something different. Because if you fail once, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to fail again and again. Keep trying, keep pursuing, and you will finally be able to find your path. So I completely agree with what you're saying, and kudos to you to be able to do that and
Thank you.
to create
Kudos to you too.
thank you, to create a new world.
Yeah.
So, so I just wanted to ask you, what's the one thing that people would be surprised to learn about you?
Probably that I'm often terrified.
Oh, really?
I think that the reason I'm passionate about what I do now in a kind of coaching client relationship, and a lot of the reason that I want to do more speaking opportunities and I want to do more of these things is I really want to give light that to pursue this, to pursue anything meaningful for oneself, you don't need to know anything more than trusting yourself and just going with it. I am in the infancy stage of building a business and building a creative life. And I'm so fortunate that it's starting to work over years of trying and learning. And this is just a me thing. I don't tend to use the word failure because I just don't see it as that. I think personally, as a public school teacher, I was often told to put kids into boxes. We didn't explicitly say this, like students who were performing very well, you were put in this class. If there were underperforming students, you were in this class. And then students internalize that. Oh, I'm one of the smart kids, or I'm a dumb kid. And I hate those words because I think that those are identities that if you form that too young, you tend to
Yeah,
carry that with you. And it just
yeah.
hurts my heart. And I was a mediocre student. I didn't know how to work hard. And so one of the things that I think about often is that I encourage people to try, but also don't be afraid to change the narrative that it's not failing. It's just trying. It's just trying. And in that sense, I hope to model for anyone who might be listening or following my own journey that I tend to run anxious. I tend to doubt myself quite a bit. And there is a deep internal conversation where future Adam and present Adam have some tough love talk and say, we're not going to let this stop us. We're going to do it anyway. But wow, does my nervous system hate that? It goes, no, we can't do this. And it's all old thinking. It's Adam from 10, 15 years ago. It's Adam when he was in school. It's all that childhood stuff. And I've gotten so much better at it. But I still don't quite know what I'm doing. I'm still asking for help. I'm learning every day. But luckily, my ratio to future Adam winning to say, we do want to do this. You can trust yourself. It's going to be okay. The only failure is if you totally quit and stop. But if you keep going, you're winning. You're winning because it's not a competition for anybody. It's just you trusting yourself. And that's a win. And
And you're learning, which
And
is
that I think is the heart
yeah,
of it. It's that you're
yeah,
learning something. And
yeah.
that to me is that's the heart of good education is that you're growing. You're learning something. You're getting insights. You're evolving. What a wonderful gift. I don't think people would I think there's a presentation that I think I've learned about myself is that I would rather
Raised your hand.
apparently I did. I would rather I'd rather share how scared I am most of the time and to say that it's okay. I'm going to take the leap anyway, or at least I keep telling myself that. Is that anytime I'm scared, that likely means I'm on the right path and I'm doing something good because anytime I've taken a scary risk, it's paid off. Even if it hasn't gone well, I've learned something, I've grown, I've evolved. And so anytime I'm scared, it's usually a cue for me to go, Adam, we should probably do this. And I don't think people might know that, but I'm often terrified, but I encourage people to leap anyway. It's going to be fine. It's all going to be okay.
Yeah, and the fact that you have this conversation with yourself and you are able to identify the fact that you can be terrified, but you still move ahead, I think is quite amazing. And it's a good way to also know, like you mentioned, now you've been able to identify that, okay, if I'm terrified about something, which means I've been having conversations about it and within myself. And the more I think about it, the more I feel that, yes, I can do it.
Exactly right.
Yeah, no, so that's an interesting way of, it's not always nice to feel terrified, but I think it's an interesting way to introspect and to come to decisions in whatever next steps you're about to take. But yeah, no, I completely get that. So let's talk a little bit about your acting. So,
Sure.
how did you get, because you were on NBC's Chicago Fire, correct? Were you a number of the episodes? That's one and two. How did you actually land the role?
Yeah, for that show, it was just one episode. And this is the stuff that honestly I don't quite understand. There is and maybe other actors would understand it. There is a whole world beyond what you do. And I think this is a really good mental exercise, I think, for anybody. Sometimes the narrative around acting is that, oh, you get all that rejection, or oh, it's so hard. And I've just never quite subscribed to that because maybe because I lived what feels like an entire life before it, is that the opportunity is that I was sitting in a classroom, lesson planning, looking at the clock, dreaming of what it might be to just have an audition. So when I have a real audition for a real project, I don't see it as, oh, what if I don't get it? I just think I just lead with gratitude. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm actually here. This is crazy. I was lesson planning at this time, and now I'm sitting in a waiting room, potentially going in for a casting director or whatever it might be. So this audition, and this is the thing that I am so grateful for, is that it was a lot of mentors and people in my life. I started mostly in the world of theater, and I did piano playing, acting, musical theater, whatever it might be. And I was so fortunate that an agent saw a show I was in. I was able to get an agent when I was in Chicago. And then I started getting TV and film auditions. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And so this was one of many TV auditions. And I remember I was in a class, an on-camera acting class, and there was a substitute teacher one day. Her name is Maura Kidwell, and I'd recommend her to anyone in the world. And she was a masterful teacher. And I am quite a critic when it comes to teaching because it's the one thing that I studied, I have my master's in. I can't turn off that kind of teacher coach hat or take it off, I guess. And she was masterful. And she really did a wonderful job of teaching the class and answering questions effectively and keeping us engaged. Like, I had no notes for her teaching. And I thought, this is someone who knows their craft and they know how to teach. And so I went up to her after class and I said, I want to learn from you. Like, how can I work with you one on one? And so she is someone that I've worked with for years. And the only reason that I got that part on Chicago Fire was that when the audition came up, I immediately reached out to Maura and I said, can you help me? Can you help me do this? And she took time out of her day and we did 1,000 takes of it until it got to the perfect one that we felt like, yeah, I think that's the best it's going to be. And I was so fortunate that it ended up working out. And I got to live a little mini celebrity experience where I got a little trailer and I got fed a nice breakfast that I was on set. And someone's job was just to make sure because it was cold outside, someone was just to have a coat on me. And I kept being like, oh my God, this is crazy. You should go. Please take a seat, relax. You don't have to worry about me. I'm totally fine. But that was solely, I give all the credit of that opportunity to a really extraordinary coach in my life, an acting coach that helped bring out my best, that helped that opportunity happen. Because if I had just gone and said, I got this, I don't think it would, I highly doubt it would have worked out in that way. So that was just really, that was a really good teacher that helped me do that. And that's how that happened.
And what happened after? What did you do next?
I guess there was a bit of momentum. And this could have been, it's hard because I think in the acting world, and I'm sure this isn't in a lot of industries, but it feels especially maybe transparent in the performing arts, is that you only can do so much. It's really, a lot of it is really outside of your control. And there's things like, I'm 6'1"-ish. There are times in which I'm too tall for roles, or maybe they're looking for someone taller and I'm too short. And they're just things that you have no idea that you could have given a masterclass worthy performance, but they just wanted someone who's a little shorter than this person. And actually, Adam, you're not the best choice. There's just so many things that I personally, like, I don't think anyone in this industry can personalize anything
Yeah.
because you just don't know. You don't know what decisions are being made. You don't know why things happen. But in that moment, to answer your question, I was fortunate that maybe after that, maybe there was some internal checkbox to say, because that was often if I got in an Uber or I was just around anyone, I said the words, I'm an actor, people would go, "Oh, have you been on TV?" That's usually most
Yeah.
people's first question. And so there was some deep internal checkbox that I was able to say, "Yes, I have been." And that was an extraordinary sentence. People not knowing my life story that I quit my teaching job. I threw my master's in the garbage. I just tried to be an actor and I was fortunate to do this. And I think that there was something that turned on for me that I thought, oh, this extraordinary moment is happening. What if I follow the green lights? What if I keep going? And so, in that sense, I was fortunate that I just really leaned in. And so, instead of always having one foot in I need a survival job, I need these things, is that I took a little bit more of a risk with my life. And yeah, I lost some money. I'll make more money. I was fortunate that at that time in my life, I had the resources saved up as a teacher. Not that it was much, because public school teachers aren't paid that much, but I was able to say, let me invest in myself for a bit and really go for it. And so after that's when I was fortunate to do some voiceover for McDonald's, and I did some more theater stuff. I moved to New York City, and I've just been chipping away at it. And I think that really what came of that was just a sense of trust, of self-trust that I didn't have before that. And I just am, every time I talk about it, I get so humbled by it. I can't believe I'm talking to you about this. I can't believe I'm having a conversation about this because at this time I would have been teaching. I would have been writing on a whiteboard what tonight's homework was. And yet instead, I have these instruments behind me, and I'm talking to you, and I'm sharing a journey that I hope and pray other people are at least a little bit inspired by. That if you're someone who is like me, that's sitting in a job that it's sucking your soul and you don't know what to do, please know that if there are options. You can ask for help. You can learn, you can do some deep self work, you can take a risk. And is it going to work out? Who cares? That's not the important part. The important part is that you went for it. You lived, you
Right.
tried.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. No, yeah, no,
exactly.
totally. I agree. So let's talk about your music because, like you mentioned, I can see all these musical instruments behind you. Do you play the guitar and the piano and
Mm-hmm.
keyboard and all of the above? Yeah.
Yeah, so the three instruments behind me are my main instruments, so guitar, piano, and bass.
And bass. Okay. Okay. So, what's the one song or musical piece that you've performed that you think actually resonates deeply with your personal story?
So this is a very niche answer, but there was a play I was fortunate enough to be a part of last summer called Two Pianos, Four Hands by Richard Greenblatt and Ted DeStryka, I think is his last name. It is a two-person play about two classical pianists, and the entire show, it follows their journey from students to essentially Juilliard applicants following a dream of classical music. Things happen, things don't quite go as planned. It's a really extraordinary play, but it's really a play about being a creative, being a musician, and especially about being a pianist. It's a show about studying piano that even if you went to piano lessons for 2 days when you were a kid, there's something about it that I think a lot of people resonate with. I say this all to say that the show ends with a four-handed version of the Bach D minor piano concerto. It's this 9 minute long piece. It's memorized. It is truly, in my humble opinion, it's a kind of Carnegie Hall virtuosic piano piece. And talk about being terrified. I am I am mostly self-taught. I have gotten very lucky that I grew up with a piano in my household. My mom has taken some lessons throughout her life. I just gravitated towards instruments, and so I'd pluck around. But my actual technique is pretty atrocious. If a piano teacher were to look at my hands, they would go, Adam, why are you doing that? And when I was fortunate enough to get this part, which again, this is some luck stuff because there was somebody who was cast who had to drop out. And so I was a last minute replacement. It terrified me. I had never played such difficult music that I had to memorize under such a short amount of time and then perform. And it's not for anyone here who knows Bach or like Baroque music, it is not easy stuff. Like it is complicated and it just imagine like constantly moving all over the place. And I had a panic attack or close to it before opening night. And I remember calling my mother and just essentially being like, I can't walk out on that stage. I'm 34, so I was 33, 34-ish when this happened. And I thought I had conquered most of my anxiety, at least in that sense. But I thought, I'm going to embarrass myself. There's no way I can do this. And I remember her advice in that moment essentially was like, all you can do is your best. And it's a simple idea, but it's true. Like you can only do what the best that you can do. That's it.
Yeah.
And that was really centering for me. And so I was so fortunate that opening night went and came and it went well. And the show ran and it got extended. And so there were many weeks where I got practice performing this 9 minute long Bach piece. And there were times that I screwed up certain things or we got off the rails. And it's just you and the other pianist. And
Yeah.
you're
Yeah. Yeah.
and you can't stop that. Once the train leaves that station, you have 9 minutes until the end of it. And so let's hope you remember all the key changes and all the runs and cadenzas, etc. And I left that experience. And I remember there was a talk back we did once, and the audience was asking, they said, how long have you been playing piano? And my good friend Matt, who I'd done the show with, he is classically trained. He's played piano his entire life. He's remarkable. I was quite intimidated by him because he, I think, is one of the best pianists I've ever heard in my life. And he had said that he had trained since he was a kid and yada. And they turned to me and I said, I'm mostly self-taught. And I remember an audience member saying, self-taught my ass, and didn't believe me, didn't actually believe that I was self-taught.
But that's
And
incredible. That means that you had
I
mastered
fooled them all. I fooled them
it.
all.
No,
Um,
you
but
mastered it.
but there was a sense that and it's a bit of a something that I carry with me is that I think if I can do the Bach, I can do anything. And I think that if I hadn't been in that pressurized environment, if I hadn't been challenged so much, and not that I think you have to have a panic attack to be ready for these things, but I just think that there's some magic that comes from overextending yourself and learning about yourself. And that's a piece that, as much as it's still to this day, if I was asked to perform it, I would be absolutely terrified. I think I'd get through it, but if I can do the Bach, I can do anything. And so to answer your question, there's a long-winded way of saying the Bach D minor piano concerto is a piece that will always terrify me and always inspire me because if I can do the Bach, I can do anything.
So, do you have, with your music, do you also have your own music? Do you write your own lyrics? Have you performed any of the, do you have an album? Do you, like, what is it that you do with your music? Acting, I've understood. You do a lot of theater as well. But in terms of music, is there maybe if there's something that you really is close to your heart and you don't mind, and if it's something that you have created yourself and you don't mind sharing on this podcast, I think it would be great if you played a little bit of something for me and for the audience. And again, I'm
Oh,
not putting you on the spot. There's no pressure there, but I think it would be fun.
if I had my sound set up better, I would be happy to share with you.
Okay.
But I'm happy to send it over if you want to attach it with this episode of
Okay,
just
yeah,
me.
yeah, that would be
Um,
brilliant.
yeah, a lot of that is also something that I'm hoping to explore more of. One of the things that I think I'm stepping into in this chapter is as an actor and a musician who usually plays other people's music or speaks other people's lines, I've been really interested in, I'm beginning a journey into kind of writing
Creating
more and
your
sharing
own.
more.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And my wonderful fiance hears a lot of the things that I just noodle on or fool around with. And her and I have actually collaborated on a song with a buddy of mine. And so I'm trying to bring in the people that I care about most to help me bring. I just wrote a one act play, or I wrote a play a while ago that I literally kept. I never thought it would see the light of day. And I saw a posting that a local theater in New York was looking for one act plays to just do a simple reading of it. And so I thought, why not? Why not? So I just sent it. And I was really fortunate that it was chosen for this festival. And so that is just a sense of, oh, like that's amazing that happened. And I just want to, I have a rule that if I'm ever fortunate enough to make it, whatever that means, I want to bring everybody that I care about with me. If my business does well, I want to hire everybody that I care about who's really good at what they do and give them a job. if I ever create something, write something musically, artistically, theatrically, I want all of my most talented, hardworking, kindest, ambitious people to I want to make sure everyone is lifted up with me. But that being said, I'd be happy to share stuff of what I'm working on. I can't promise that it's any good, but that's not the point in my eyes. It's just a matter of creating something unique, original, and meaningful.
Exactly. Absolutely. I think that's the most important thing. It's the effort, it's the fact that it's personal for you and to you. I think that matters more than anything else. So yeah, no, great.
Agreed.
If you send a little clip, and then my team will just pick it up and we can add it
Sure.
to the episode. I'd love that very much. Anything that you would like to say to the audience before the end of the interview?
First of all, a big thank you to you. Thank you so much for having me on today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for hearing my story and my journey. And for anyone listening, I hope I can just offer a little bit of encouragement that essentially, if I can do this, you can do this. If I could, if I have the ability to change my whole life and trust myself and be terrified at every turn, you can do it too. You can do it too. And it really does start with just understanding that life is not for somebody else, that life is for you. You are capable of that. It is within reach. And if you need any help or a nudge getting there, reach out. I'd be happy to listen and help at any time.
And how do people reach out to you?
Best place would be through my website. It's adamlasalle.co, not com, just co, adamlasalle.co, or you can find me on Instagram at adam.lasalle.
Incredible. Thank you so much. I'm sure there will be an interest in people who are, because there's so many people who are just trying to, I know the term make it is such a cliche, but there are so many people, young, old, who suddenly discovered this desire to do something. And of course, the creative world is always attractive to people, but the struggle is real. And the most important thing is for you to not give up. As I can see for you, what I'm seeing and hearing is one, the leap of faith, and the way you transitioned from like a very regular, it's not a regular job, but what I mean is a regular way of life to do something different and follow your dream and passion, and then being able to do it relentlessly. And then, of course,
Hmm.
you have, I feel the fact that voiceovers, teaching, coaching, acting, music, you've got it all. And
Oh,
the fact, and
thank you.
writing as well, because you just mentioned that you've written a one act play as well. So I think a combination of all of that gives you also an opportunity to explore all these different avenues that are available for you. And I think coaching and being able to help people move ahead and help people find their way through your coaching is also very fascinating. And the fact that you've experienced it, And I think if you've had a first-hand experience of something and then you're able to impart your knowledge and your experience onto other people, that I believe to be far more effective and impactful than you having studied to be a teacher or a coach for an acting school or something like that without a personal experience, I think makes all the difference. So good luck. And I'm sure you're going to be very fulfilled in your whatever your future journey is going to be and whatever you're embarking on next. And good luck. And I wish you all the very best. And I
Thank
truly
you.
have really enjoyed this conversation with you.
Same. Thank you so much for your kind words, and I look forward to when our paths cross again.
Absolutely. And I'm sure they will. So thank you. You have a wonderful day, Adam.
You as well. Thank you.